He is the leader of the world's most powerful clan, the Grieving Souls, and is known for his wisdom and strength. But in reality, he's a loser and a weakling who just wants to find a way to quit his job. Cry Andri is reluctantly waiting in line at a treasure hunter clan meeting. He doesn't want to be there, but he is left with no other option. In this world, treasure hunters are like celebrities, risking their lives exploring treasure vaults and facing big monsters, just like your mom. It's dangerous, but the allure of wealth and fame drives many to join clans like First Steps, one of the capital's top guilds. Most hunters, unless they are like Jinwoo, can't go far solo, so they join these clans for support. Cry tries to stay unnoticed, but a girl behind him, Ruta, starts chatting. He ignores her, but she steps in front and introduces herself as a level 3 hunter. She offers a handshake, but Cray refuses, giving only his name. Though disappointed, Ruta brushes it off and keeps talking about herself. She's been hunting solo until now, but when she stumbled upon a vault called the White Wolf Den, she couldn't handle it alone. She decided to join a party just as the man in front of them turned and told Ruta she shouldn't be tackling dangerous vaults like White Wolf Den while only being level 3. He smirked, calling her an amateur, and said that even at level 3, she was still a rookie compared to the experienced hunters. As the argument escalated, Ruta grew furious and Cray regretted not staying home to avoid the mess. Ruta drew her knives ready to attack, but a guard quickly stepped in, reminding her that this wasn't London and she'd be banned from the clan meeting if she continued. Realizing her mistake, she sheathed her knives and apologized while Cray pretended he wasn't involved. Later, Cray entered the meeting with Ruta by his side as he was the only one she knew. She was awestruck by all the powerful hunters and felt overwhelmed, never having been in a place like this before. She asked if Cray had been there before, and he told her it was his 5th time. Ruta thought he must not be a very good hunter if he had to keep returning to recruitment. In the world of hunters, talent is everything and even a nobody can rise through the ranks. Ruta notices a lively party with flashy outfits on the other side of the room and asks Cray about it. He explains that the party is called Arc Brave, and they are by far the strongest group recruiting today. They once completed a level 7 vault with just 6 members, earning them great respect. If their leader, Arc Rodin, recruits you, it almost guarantees a successful hunter career, though he's very selective. Intrigued, Ruta asks about the empty desk in the corner, but before Cray can answer, Greg approaches, offering to explain. Despite their earlier argument, Greg tells her the desk belongs to the Grievers, a legendary party of childhood friends known as the Grieving Souls who gained fame after arriving in the capital. Rumors suggested they might recruit today, but their absence leads Greg to believe the rumors were false. Just then, a kid eager to join the Grieving Souls gets frustrated at their absence as he dreams of becoming the strongest hunter. Greg finds him amusing, but Ruta stays quiet knowing the kid is actually a higher level than her. At that moment, a girl named Tino steps up, ready to shut the red-haired kid up with force, believing she's the only one who deserves to join the Grieving Souls party. Her partner tries to calm her down, thinking it's not worth making a scene, even though the red-haired kid is annoying. It seemed like the tension had settled, but then Greg jumps in, stirring things up. Now the whole room is rooting for a fight. Tino and the kid square off and Cray senses chaos is coming. Not wanting to stick around, he asks Ruta to step outside with him. As the fight is about to start, Tino, intending to seriously harm the kid, suddenly senses a familiar presence. When she spots Cray, she forgets the fight and charges at him. Caught off guard, Cray stumbles and Tino nervously calls him Master, asking if he saw her lose control. Arc then approaches, greeting Cray and mentioning that they've been waiting for him since he's both the clan leader and the head of Grieving Souls. Those who had recognized Cray before are stunned to realize he's the most important person there. Despite all the attention he's receiving, it's making him feel ill, and he just wants to go home. Years ago, when Cray and his childhood friends first arrived in the capital, they were clearing beginner vaults at record speed. But there was a catch. Cray had no idea what he was doing. He was saved from a monster, and his teammates mistakenly thought he was using himself as bait on purpose, so he played along, though he was nearly eaten. They all shared the dream of becoming top-tier hunters, but unlike the others, Cray was completely average. He knew he'd eventually drag the group down, so he decided to leave before his friends grew to resent him. Yet when he tried to quit, he somehow ended up being made the party leader. That's how he ended up in charge of his incredibly talented friends, though he really just wants to retire. Ruta and Greg are still shocked that Cray has been the clan master all along. As Cray relaxes in his chair, Arc approaches and asks if he showed up late to blend in with the crowd. Cray insists he simply overslept, but Arc is convinced otherwise. No matter how much Cray explains, people always see him as more impressive than he really is. Tino, unhappy with how close Arc is to Cray, wants him kicked out of the clan, but Cray refuses. Tina was a level 4 hunter and apprentice to Liz, one of Crei's childhood friends, so she spends a lot of time around him. Ark asks Crei if there are any good candidates for recruitment, but there's no real need for new members at the moment. Since Ark rarely recruits, Crei seizes the chance and asks if Ark would seriously consider his suggestions. To everyone's surprise, Ark agrees to accept anyone Crei recommends. The vice captain tries to dissuade him, but Ark insists Crei's choices will be worthy. Tina blushes, thinking Ark might suggest her, but she feels conflicted because she doesn't really like him. Suddenly, Gilbert, a kid from earlier, steps up, ready to beg for a chance. Crei tells Gilbert he'll recommend him on one condition, that as a hunter, the most important thing is to make sure you always win. If he lacks strength, he will end up putting his party members in danger. So Crei wants him to demonstrate that he has the ability to always win. Since Crei began his career as a hunter, he has never lost before, although that's because he has never actually been in a real fight anyway. Crei removes one of his ring artifacts and declares to the hunters that the first person to present it to Ark will be welcomed into his team. He throws the ring into the wild, eager to watch the chaos unfold. Gilbert grabs it first, but before he can even react, Tina leaps at him and knees him so hard that Gilbert is knocked across the room, likely needing medical attention. The ring rolls across the floor, and after a moment of hesitation, everyone starts scrambling for it. As the brawl intensifies, Crei quietly slips away, unconcerned about the destruction. By morning, however, the bar fight made front-page news as the place was completely wrecked, though thankfully, no one was seriously injured. Eva informs Crei that the Explorers Association has called for a private meeting, and he knows they're going to scold him. When he asks how Ark reacted, Eva tells him Ark found it amusing and wasn't upset. Hoping to take advantage of Ark's good mood, Crei suggests sending him the bill for repairs and having him attend the meeting, but Eva reminds him the meeting is specifically for him. With no way out, Crei reluctantly agrees to go, knowing that if he doesn't, Gark will hunt him down like always. Crei plans to use his secret weapon to get out of trouble quickly, groveling and apologizing. He argues that the only damage was to the bar, no one was hurt, and the owner has already been compensated for repairs, so there shouldn't be any further issues. Gark hasn't even yelled at Crei yet, but after seeing his apology, he decides to let it go for now. However, Crei still needs to take responsibility for his actions, so Gark assigns him a quest that he can't refuse. The association receives many quests, but some are so difficult or low-paying that hunters call them chores, and no one wants them. Crei tries to act like he's too important for a chore, but Gark insists. Forced to choose, Crei looks through the quest book and picks the easiest one, a level 3 quest. He plans to pass the work off to Ark, but when he looks for him, Tino tells him Ark is away at a meeting with nobles. With no other options, Crei is stuck with the task. Just then, Crei notices that Tino is wearing his ring, meaning she won his game yesterday. Putting that aside, he asks if she's free. Tino, excited and thinking he's about to ask her on a date, is disappointed when he reveals he has a quest for her. She immediately tries to run, but Crei summons his chain dog, Silver, to catch her. Soon she's tied to a chair as Crei explains the mission. Feeling betrayed, she complains she just wanted a date, not this lousy quest. When she suggests Crei should come with her, he declines, not wanting to do the work, and instead sends her off with the hunters from yesterday. 6 years ago, the most powerful clan in the region, which didn't even have a name at the time, arrived at the Adventurers Association to register. As usual, Crei tried to stop the team from proceeding and didn't even want to go inside, but his friends refused to quit. Despite Crei's doubts, he claimed he'd only hold them back, yet his companions insisted he stay as their leader. Frustrated with Crei's hesitation, the boldest of the group, Luke Cycle, kicked the door open, swaggering in and introducing himself as the world's best swordsman. Liz Smart, at his side, modestly declared herself the most powerful blade in the universe. Luke then told the staff member he was unmatched because, as Crei always said, real strength isn't tied to a weapon. With a wooden sword in hand, Luke believed he was the most dangerous. All Crei wanted was for Luke to stop embarrassing him in public. Either way, it was time to register the clan's name and symbol. The receptionist gave Crei a form, reminding him the name represents a group's spirit. Since no one had thought about a name, Crei quickly came up with Grieving Souls and drew a strange skull, hoping it would get him out of the leader role. Everyone in the group hated the name, so Crei used it to highlight his poor leadership. But just as he threatened to step down, his friends suddenly changed their minds, acting like the name was brilliant. That's how the Grieving Souls clan came to be. Fast forward to today, and Greg is shocked to find out the skinny, lifeless-looking kid is actually the master of steps known for 1,000 tricks. Crei recalls it's the second title he earned as leader of Grieving Souls, since top treasure hunters often get special names and become legends. Despite everyone saying so, Gilbert refuses to believe the kid is great, and Tino, who never liked him, complains to Crei that she can't work with this fake swordsman. Speaking of fakes, Cry considers himself the biggest fraud in Zabrudia because despite what people say, he's far from being the strongest. That reputation comes from his clanmates hyping up Grieving Souls as the best. Ignoring the argument, Cry asks if the group is ready for the mission. Gilbert, feeling insulted, calls the situation a joke and dismisses the kid. Greg tries to warn him, but Gilbert ignores him, so Cry kicks him off the mission. He then asks Greg and Ruta if they're in, and they agree. Furious, Gilbert expects Cry to beg for his approval, but Cry couldn't care less. Cry instead tells Tino to let him know if she needs anything. She seizes the opportunity to mention that she does need the master, but Cry firmly denies it. With that settled, Craig prepares to leave, but Gilbert challenges the 1,000 tricks, promising to join the group if he loses. Cry explains that Tino Shade is the leader, so it's her he'll be facing. Tino, never one to hold back, vows to unleash divine punishment on Gilbert, using the impressive range she gained through intense training. Confident, Gilbert promises to go all out and challenges Cry again after being Tino. Cry has no interest in fighting, but Tino draws Gilbert's attention, warning him that even though they're both level 4, she's nothing compared to the master. To make it more exciting, she drops her weapons, deciding to fight him bare-handed. Cray thinks Tino can handle the arrogant guy, but the sword of purgatory he wields might give him an edge depending on his skill. Surprisingly, Gilbert mimics her and drops his weapon too. Tino then declares that after defeating him, she'll go get ice cream with the master, though Cray isn't thrilled about it. She insists and Cray gives in to keep the peace. Motivated, Tino charges at Gilbert with incredible speed. He barely dodges the first strike but gets caught by a swift leg sweep, suffering his first hit of the day. Determined not to give up, the man strikes back at the girl, but she easily dodges and mocks him for challenging her master. Though it seemed he was beaten, Gilbert makes a comeback and regains control of his body. Tino then hits the man's neck, seemingly ending him. But as everyone assumes the swordsman is defeated, he recalls his childhood as a hunter. Even as a boy, he outmatched some adults in swordsmanship, quickly growing strong enough to pursue his career in the capital. Soon he formed a group and successfully plundered treasure vaults, feeling invincible. In the present, his rival warns him to use his sword if he wants to survive. Gilbert refuses, but she reminds him that pride is worthless when you're dead. Reluctantly, he agrees, though he can't stand being weaker than his opponent. Cry steps in, telling Gilbert they're alike. Just as Gilbert left his group due to a power gap, Cry faced a similar situation, though his group refused to let him fall behind. Gilbert begins to see Cry as a benevolent figure, even with his feared reputation. Meanwhile, Cry inspects the fallen man's sword, noting its elemental damage and solid design. The swordsman should handle the situation, realizing that the man wielded his sword far better than he ever could, reaching a level of skill he could never attain despite years of practice. Gilbert shouts that it's impossible and calls the leader of the Grieving Souls a monster. Cry then explains that mana material is considered the world's fundamental substance, but it's invisible to the naked eye. Treasure vaults are phenomena where spiritual lines and forces condense mana, creating limited alternate worlds based on the world's core memories. While many kingdoms study the rules behind this, they are still not fully understood. The White Wolf's Nest is one of these treasure vaults, once home to wolf monsters called Silver Moon, who were hunted to extinction for their pelts. Afterward, a blood-stained wolf ghost appeared along with the vault. Upon reading about this, the young man gets scared and notes that a treasure vault reflecting history's vengeance is overwhelming. Eva argues that Craig put the group in this situation, but he reassures her that his team is skilled enough to handle it since the vault is level 3 and they'll have 4 people, plus Tino is coming along. The boy also thanks her for telling him that Gilbert had left the group as it helped him at a key moment. Finally, the clan's vice master mentions the master put on quite a display with a relic in the training room. He replies that it was easy to control, especially since even Gilbert managed to use it without much knowledge. Cry enjoys collecting relics of various powers and forms and is curious if Gilbert would sell the Purgatory Blade. Upon hearing this, Eva loses her patience, pointing out that the boss already owns similar relics and even took out a loan from Citri due to debts, despite receiving the same commission as the other Grieving Souls members. The clan doesn't have endless funds. Embarrassed, Cry tries to respond but only remembers he needs someone to recharge his relics. He seeks out 2 allies, and while one recharges the relics, the other informs him that a ghostly wolf recently destroyed a caravan with level 3 escorts near the White Wolf's Nest. Although Cry assumes his team can handle it, the man warns that the ghosts are growing stronger. The woman adds that Rudolph Devout, a powerful level 5 lancer, has appeared there, and Cry recalls that he's wanted for a job related to the guild. Worried the mission might fail, Cry hopes Gilbert has recharged the Purgatory Blade. Meanwhile, the team is on its way to the nest, and Tino doesn't help morale by revealing she wrote a will before leaving. She reasons that if her master sent her, the mission must be tough, but she trusts Cry wouldn't assign her to a random group, though the rest of the team feels this is exactly that. Gilbert accepted the job because the Thousand Tricks already knew why he left his previous group. Tino explains that the man is brilliant at deduction and has vast knowledge of the capital and its surroundings, so he likely figured it out from Gilbert's words. Ruta doubts this, but Greg believes only such a calculating mind could have predicted the bar incident. Tino adds that their master meticulously planned the mission to ensure no major dangers and would never send them to their deaths without careful thought. Ironically, after sending a group to their deaths without much thought, Cray decides to catch up with them in time to order them to abort the mission. Meanwhile, the team barely arrives before encountering a ghost wielding a sword and shield far stronger than any human. As Cry searches through endless clutter for the relic, Eva scolds him for carrying a forbidden citrus slime. Despite this, Cray flies off with the unstable relic, which may turn out to be his last flight. Years ago, in the early days of the Grieving Soul, it had only been a week since the clan started operating in the capital, and Gilbert was already furious. His divine sword, Blade of the Testament, had shattered like a twig. Other jealous members joked that fighting ghosts with a stick would be hard, while Tino commented she hadn't expected to find a Cyclops in a level 1 vault, since those monsters were level 4. Overhearing the conversation, a drunk tavern goer called them rookies, claiming a Cyclops would never appear in the Goblin Cave, and even if it had, it wouldn't have survived. At that, 2 female clan members stepped up, revealing the Cyclops to the drunk, leaving him stunned. Cry, observing, thought this was exactly why he didn't want to bring the creature along. Fast forward to today, Gilbert Bush cuts a werewolf in half. Exhausted, Ruta complains that such a monster shouldn't appear in a level 3 vault. Similarly, Greg doesn't understand why the Blade of Purgatory didn't ignite during the battle, to which its owner replies the sword is out of mana and he can't recharge it alone. Ruta suggests retreating, and Greg adds that things aren't as they were told, likely meaning the group they came to save is already dead. Despite this, leader Tino insists the plan stays unchanged. Greg anxiously asks if survival isn't the priority, but Tino firmly states they didn't come to collect monsters. The ones they're rescuing are alive and executing a perfect level 8 strategy, with the Blade's depletion part of the Master's plan. The group pushes forward to the White Wolf's den, where humanoid wolves armed with bows and guns await them. Greg realizes that the wolves they fought earlier weren't just randomly powerful. The entire pack is highly skilled. Tino explains the den was originally home to the Silver Moon wolves. Gilbert rushes ahead, eager to finish the fight quickly, thinking that once they deal with the armed wolves, the rest will be easy. Tino, however, cautions him not to be reckless, reminding him that her responsibility as leader is to ensure everyone survives. She lays out a strategy. She and Ruta, being the fastest, will lure the wolves, while the others attack from behind at close range. The guns shouldn't be a big issue, but no one is to use another as a shield. Meanwhile, Cry silently hopes at least Tino survives, even if the others don't. Tino recognizes the wolves' superior skill but highlights the team's key advantage: teamwork. As more armed werewolves approach, the group instinctively knows how to react. Though they're a makeshift team, their synergy is solid. Gilbert may talk too much, but he's effective. Greg's experience helps the group, and Ruta, while not flashy, excels at spotting enemies. With the plan working smoothly, Tino starts to think her master is a true genius. In the midst of battle, Gilbert becomes frustrated, feeling underestimated by the enemy. This takes him back to a memory where he felt the same, pushing his team to be tougher, but they couldn't keep up. Disheartened, he abandoned them on the spot, unaware they were giving their all. Over time, the gap only grew. Back then, he was filled with anger, but now, fighting alongside others, he's matured enough to see the value of teamwork. After another victory, the group moves deeper into the White Wolf's den, arriving in a larger chamber. Tino touches the wall, sensing a presence, not the ones they came to save, but likely the den's boss. Greg suggests retreating, but Tino reminds him they've come this far unscathed and should be able to handle it. Despite agreeing, Greg remains uneasy. Tino teases him for being overly cautious and argues that safe missions don't help anyone grow. Greg admits she's not wrong, recalling how he stopped fighting when he thought he couldn't win, a habit from seeing many friends die. Tino points out that Greg joined this team to change that mindset, and that's why the Master put him here despite barely knowing him. Cray's true intention was to save everyone there, meaning the Master is like a god, and there's no way he assembled that team by chance. He would never lower himself to such a trivial role. Everything he does is meticulously planned, aligning perfectly with his flawless design, which is always carried out with precision through intricate tactics. In other words, Tino reiterates once more that Cray is indeed a divine figure. On that note, Ruta is keen to figure out why she was chosen for the team, and Tino is at a loss for how to respond, so he simply watches her, searching for an explanation. It quickly dawns on her that the answer is obvious. It is because of her melons. The newcomer looks ready to protest, but before she can, the leader cuts off the idle chatter and directs the group to resume their journey. Speaking of the cold and calculating god, Cry starts to panic as he realizes he has no idea where the group he sent is located. To make matters worse, the relic he's using to fly is essentially a plane without brakes, which is clearly dangerous. However, despite the turbulence, he accidentally crashes into the White Wolf's den. Meanwhile, Tino and the others confront the dungeon boss, a massive white wolf. As soon as the enemy makes its first move, the entire group recoils, visibly nervous, as it's clear this wolf is immensely powerful. The team becomes hesitant, disorganized, torn between fighting and retreating. Tino notices that the boss isn't wearing a helmet, which must be its weakness. This is likely one of the 1,000 trials set by her master Cry, so she knows she must pass the test. With that in mind, she commands Gilbert to block one of the wolf's attacks while she handles the rest. Gilbert braces his sword against the beast's axe, holding it off briefly. Greg strikes at its leg, but the wolf swats him away with its paw. Tino charges fearlessly, leaving Ruda in awe. Greg's sword shatters from a heavy blow, and as the wolf prepares another strike, Ruda rushes in, pushing him aside just in time. Tino climbs the axe handle, suffering a deep scratch, but lands the final blow, defeating the beast. Afterward, she tends to her wound with a healing potion. Greg mourns his broken sword, but Gilbert reminds him it could have been worse. Grateful, Greg thanks Ruda for saving him, but their mission isn't over. Tino gives Greg her sword, but suddenly a giant spear narrowly misses her. 4 more giant white wolves, identical to the dungeon boss, emerge. Even Tino feels the pressure and realizes their challenge is greater than expected. She orders the group to flee through a narrow passage to slow the wolves, but one blocks the way. Greg suggests Tino and Ruda escape, while he and Gilbert stay behind to buy time. The leader refuses to let anyone be sacrificed, ordering the team to target the wolves' eyes and quickly organizing a new attack. Gilbert leads, ready to face death, blocking a wolf's strike as Greg follows up, but both are knocked back. Ruda hurls shurikens at a wolf's eyes, but it shuts them in time. Tino uses a flash technique she learned from Cray, blinding a wolf, but even so, it hurls Gilbert into a wall. She regrets the poor strategy that endangered him. Surrounded with no options, Cry crashes into the scene, taking down a wolf. His power causes the remaining wolves to hesitate, but one charges. Cry blocks with an accessory and fires projectiles to finish it off. With 7 security rings, Cray is formidable but uninterested in the mission and just wants to leave. To end it quickly, he throws a pendant, detonating it to create a distraction for the group's escape. Everyone retreats, but Tino, wounded, slows them down. Gilbert complains about the pace, but Ruda reminds him they're following the injured leader. In truth, Cry is sprinting as fast as he can, which is still as slow as the injured girl. Thinking he's being thoughtful, Tino recalls that kindness has always been one of his key traits. Long ago, when she was a child, 2 men troubled her until the grieving soul rescued her, and since then, she's wanted to be like them. After distancing themselves from the wolves, the group rests while Cry uses another relic to heal Tino. Gilbert, a bit scornful, comments that Cray relies on items for everything, but Cray ignores him. They continue despite Cray having no clue what he's doing or how to escape. Years ago, as a child, Cray would often impress his clanmates with a number of relics he possessed. Being a fan of such items, he saved up to buy as many as he could. Liz asked if Cray could use one suited for her, but Luke objected, saying the leader should use relics that benefited the entire group. Tino joked that Cray's hoarding would finally pay off, as she was their battery. Curious, Liz asked about a relic she was holding, and Cray explained it was a magic pouch that could store much more than it appeared, though only chocolate. Tino, surprised, realized how useless that was. Liz then showed off a bracelet she liked but was quickly thrown to the ground twice. Cray, embarrassed, explained it was a labyrinth ring that distorted space. Meanwhile, Luke got stuck to a sword, which Cray revealed was cursed. The sword also filled Luke with a violent urge, but fortunately, these dangerous relics later became training tools for Luke and Liz. Now Cray's current group was navigating the White Wolf's nest. The narrow corridors split continuously, making it impossible to tell where they were. To make things more confusing, Cray was leading even though the rogues Tino and Ruda should have been guiding. At that moment, Cray glanced back subtly, causing everyone else to do the same. In truth, he just wanted to see if Tino would look at him, worried she might resent him by now for dragging her into this chaotic mission. Since she glanced back with the others, Cray started to believe she didn't want to talk to him anymore, and a wave of anxiety hit. Even though she had always said she adored him, he felt like he had really messed up and might need to apologize on his knees. Just then, Gilbert asked if they were heading toward the exit, prompting Cray to look back again, making everyone follow suit. Internally, Cray thought they were heading toward the exit, but he had no idea how to get there. Tino explained to Gilbert that figuring out the Master's plan was part of their training and revealed they had never been heading for the exit in the first place. Even Cray was shocked, so she added that she had checked the map earlier and had some idea of the cave's pathways. However, the route they were on would never lead to the exit. To get out, they have to return to the boss chamber. Hearing this, Cray realized he had messed up, especially since he hadn't even realized the giant wolves were the bosses. Ruta then asked where they were going, though she knew it was all part of the plan. Cray stayed silent, having no clue what to do, and just hoped everyone wouldn't act like they were depending on him. He continued walking in silence. After Cray suddenly turned ahead, the others were drawn to what lay in the opposite direction. Tino reiterated once again that her master always had a reason for his actions. With that, everyone ran the other way. Confused, Cray checked on the situation and found that the soldiers they came to rescue were down that corridor. Their leader, Rudolph, gratefully thanked them, and Tino gave all the credit to her master, who she said always knew what he was doing. Cray shrugged it off as coincidence, puzzling Gilbert with his remark. Greg noted that it only made Cray seem more mysterious. Ruta mentioned she'd healed the wounded, but they still needed food, so Cray pulled out his infinite chocolate pouch and handed it out. Gilbert asked how it worked, but Cray said it was a secret. Greg then admitted that when he heard the missing soldiers were level 5, he thought there must be a mistake. Rudolph explained that they, too, were caught off guard because no one expected the enemies to be that strong. While Gilbert acknowledged the wolves' strength, he was surprised they could overpower level 5 soldiers. Rudolph clarified that it wasn't the wolves, but a lone enemy, a small ghost with a skull-covered face, possibly the manifestation of the Silver Moon's curse. This curse had formed after the humans exterminated the wolves, turning their resentment into a deadly power. Rudolph was convinced he was right, unable to think of any other explanation. He and his men had been confident, but the coast seemed to rival 1,000 swords, the capital's greatest swordsman trained with the sacred blade. A lunatic who could defeat anyone, even with a wooden sword. Cray knew this man well. He was Luke's cycle, Cray's childhood friend and a member of Grieving Soul. Cray thought the coast was strong, but doubted it matched the 1,000 swords. Luke wasn't there, and Tino couldn't handle the ghost alone. Cray regretted not waiting for Ark and suggested they leave before encountering the creature. However, since Tino Shade was the mission leader, they had to follow her lead. She admitted she was inferior to her master, but Cray reassured her it was part of her training and he'd help if needed. In reality, Cray was tired of leading and wanted to pass the responsibility. Shade accepted the challenge and agreed that leaving quickly was the best option. As they resumed their journey, Tino led the group toward the exit. Rudolph offered to stay behind and buy time while his companions escaped, but the leader assured them that with the master present, everyone would be safe. Hellion, one of Rudolph's men, insisted it was his duty to be the shield as his superior only took the mission for him. Cray said they could sort it out once back in the capital. Suddenly, dozens of howls echoed through the cave, and Cray calculated he had 5 safety rings left. On the 6th, he would die for real. To make things worse, he no longer has relics, and a shooting ring won't be enough to stop the enemies. As if that wasn't bad enough, the citrus slime has vanished, and the sword tied to his waist is missing. In this dire situation, Cray wonders if this is the end. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure walks through the misty cave and teleports away. Amid the chaos, Cray's group senses that something serious is about to happen, and Rudolph braces for it. Cray steps in front of Tino, realizing that using the night hiker to become a human missile would kill him, but at least provide a surprise attack. Suddenly, 4 purple flames ignite, revealing the infamous ghost. Everyone freezes in fear as a second figure, wielding a sword, appears behind the ghost. Tino begins to say her final goodbye while Cray wonders what Liz Smart is doing here. Without hesitation, Liz teleports beside the ghost and delivers a powerful kick, slamming it against the wall. She then returns Cray's lost sword, explaining that she hurried over, only to feel sad and embarrassed to hear the leader went to a vault. She couldn't believe Cray worried so much or that Tino couldn't even pick up trash properly. As she says this, Liz grabs Tino's arms. When Gilbert tries to intervene, Liz kicks him in the chest, warning she's still apologizing, and then asks Tino if the issue was poor training or a lack of ambition. After calmly asking, the teacher completely loses her temper and curses, saying Tino will die in the gutter before tarnishing Cray's name. Tino kneels and begs for forgiveness, calling herself worthless. Cray steps in, praising Tino for doing well on today's mission and Liz for her excellent work. Feeling proud, Liz notes that Tino only lacks the will to die. Suddenly, a giant wolf with a minigun appears and fires wildly. Liz, unfazed, puts on her mask, stops time, catches a bullet, and drops it, angry they underestimated her. She complains that her student feared such a weak weapon, ruining her reputation. Liz then leaps at the wolf, kicks its head, and drags it to the ground with an energy trail that explodes. Amid the chaos, she screams that killing enemies however you want is the most fun. With the wolf down, only the ghost remains. He attacks with incredible speed, but Liz stops his blade with one hand, showing her student that this is easy. She knees the ghost in the stomach and punches him to the ground, teaching that the best way to win is to kill your enemy without hesitation, even if it risks your life. While passing on these teachings to Tino, the teacher insults her repeatedly, calling her stupid and other harsh names until she breaks down in tears. During this, Cray realizes that the ghost stands no chance against the Thousand Swords and that Liz and Luke's battles were what helped Grieving Soul improve so much. Nowadays, Liz Smart is faster than anyone, earning her the nickname Stifled Shadow in the capital. After their victory, Gilbert Bush declares that Cry can keep the Sword of Purgatory, as he plans to restart his journey and will soon be able to catch bullets midair like the Stifled Shadow. Tino, Greg, and Ruta doubt this, but Cry just wants to dream and be happy. Since he aims to be as strong as Liz Smart, he gets advice about Stag's customized masks. 6 years ago, Cry had messed up an order for his clan and got masks without eye holes, but the group still loved them and made them part of their identity. A year ago, a quirky alchemist named Citri Smart gifted Cry a slime, saying it made her feel safer. Citri, part of Grieving Soul and the brains behind Grieving Souls, works at the Capital Science Institute and is renowned among alchemists, earning the nickname Unfettered. Sometimes she has Cry test her wild lab creations. About this slime, she warned him to handle it carefully since dropping it could jeopardize the entire capital. Fast forward to today, Cry is frantically searching his room for the slime. He remembers last opening the capsule at the White Wolf's den, only to find it empty. Reflecting, he realizes the vault, an ancient relic that had always been locked, was likely empty from the start. Laughing at Citri's mischievous nature, he considers letting it go, not wanting to make himself sick. Meanwhile, at the den, a warrior defeats a ghost and asks her partner if this was still a level 3 area. He replies that the ghost levels had surged recently. She comments that the association's investigations are no easy task, while he notes that exploring anomalies in treasure vaults is crucial to the kingdom. He also mentions the Thousand Tricks involvement, hinting at something strange at work. Back at Cray's place, he barely slept, consumed by thoughts of the slime. As he steps out, Eva Renfried approaches, notifying him that the association demands a report on the White Wolf's den. Cray, as lazy as ever, replies that Tino, the leader of the team, should handle it. However, Eva explains that Tino is training with Liz. With no escape, Cray asks if there's been any buzz in the capital about the mission. Eva doesn't know but promises to investigate. Cray then asks her to drop it, deciding to check on Tino himself. Eva informs him that Tino is training on the second sublevel. As Cray heads there, Eva ponders the unusual events, wondering if Cray's predictions about anomalies and noble squabbles are truly coincidental. Reaching the sublevel, Cray meets Sven Anger, leader of Obsidian Cross. Sven quickly asks him to stop Liz, who is causing havoc in the training hall. Cray argues that monster control isn't his job, but with Ansem and Lucia absent, Sven insists there's no one else to handle it. He also asks how Liz smartly managed to return alone. Sven explains she disarmed all traps, reached the boss's room, and simply left, bored. Impressed yet worried, Sven warns that if no one steps in, Tino could end up in serious trouble. Cray forces a smile and claims people don't die that easily, but when he enters the hall, he sees Liz standing over an unconscious Tino, still menacing the student without hesitation. Liz raises her leg to finish the downed girl, prompting Cray to stop the training before it turns tragic. Liz impatiently explains she was simply training Tino, remarking on the girl's potential despite her lack of strength, even compared to Liz herself at Tino's age. Cray appreciates the teacher's passion, but insists the student has hit her limit and asks for a pause. Liz protests, but just then, Tino grasps her ankle, asserting she's not done yet. Cray wonders why Tino is wearing a mask while Liz celebrates her resilience, preparing to continue. Cray leaves, telling the others there's no stopping Liz once she's in this state. Sven, though frustrated, agrees that it's good for Tino to grow stronger. Shifting topics, Sven mentions the North Road is now blocked due to ghost sightings. Over tea, he adds that an investigation found the Night Orders were unprepared for this. Cray recalls hearing that travelers were attacked by ghosts from the White Wolf's den and suspects Gark wants to discuss this with him. Thinking back, Cray regrets Ark's absence, as he's more reliable than himself in situations like this. The man is a truly outstanding leader and skilled fighter, independent and beyond average. If Cray could leave everything in his hands, things would run seamlessly. Since that's not an option, Cray focuses on buying time. Watching his leader reflect, Sven observes how calm he seems, making Cry wonder if it's because the issue doesn't directly concern him. Cry then decides to send the Obsidian Cross to meet Gark, hoping he can guide the clan on handling the matter. He asks group members to inform the Adventurers Association manager that he won't be attending, shedding another responsibility. This prompts a member of the Obsidian Cross to question Cray's leadership style, noting that he often stays behind while others take on missions. Sten, however, explains that the newcomer doesn't yet understand Cray's mindset. It's this very behavior that drives the Grieving Souls and the Obsidian Cross. In Sven's view, Cray is almost monstrous and never to be underestimated. Later, Gark learns that the energy lines near the White Wolf's nest remain unchanged, and the mana levels are stable. He needs to speak with Cry to understand the anomaly in the treasure vault, though Cry is reportedly too busy to meet. Gark plans to visit him tomorrow, confident Cry knows something. Meanwhile, in a hidden lab, an elderly master magician notes that he never expected a high-level hunter to get involved. Others, dressed in matching uniforms, comment that it's only a matter of time before the Adventurers Association finds this place. The old man remarks that Cry shouldn't be underestimated, while another man points out that simple hunters can't grasp the great master magician's efforts in the capital's Akashic Tower Research Division. The master explains that this mechanism uses the vast energy lines, altering the treasure vaults. If the chief's theories prove correct, they might even create vaults at will. The team, however, worries about abandoning the lab to start over, especially with Sophia on vacation, as she's responsible for the defense system. The master assures them he granted her leave and that she'll return shortly via harmonic stone communication to resolve the deadlock. Meanwhile, Cray dreams of the capital in flames under attack by a creature, wondering if Citry Slime is the threat, though he dismisses it, as his dreams never come true. He then finds Liz next to him, though she often sneaks into his bed. Later, as he leaves his room, Liz warns him he's busy today when they encounter Gark. Seizing the chance, Gark asks for her report on the Night Palace. Annoyed by the interruption, Liz kicks him, though he deflects, cautioning that even his patience has limits. Cray and Kana's chat over tea takes an unexpected turn when he accidentally hints at a bigger issue beyond the White Wolf's nest. He avoids further explanation, claiming he fears someone might overhear. In reality, Cray knows he unleashed a dangerous slime in the capital but keeps that detail secret. Busy as always, he suggests Gark is the right person to handle the situation, as he won't have time. Meanwhile, the hall is in ruins from Liz and Gark's battle, with Liz taunting the manager for losing his edge. Pushed too far, the manager unleashes a powerful energy, reminding Cray of his past as the war demon of Zabrudia. To stop the hall from collapsing, Cray asks them to pause the fight, but Eva is horrified by the damage when she arrives. Liz continues provoking Gark, calling him weak and unfit for the Night Palace, though Cray isn't so sure. Cray then brings up a question, asking if the dungeon boss was more challenging than the one in White Wolf's nest. However, Smart found the nest boss so easy to defeat that he hadn't even realized it was a boss at all. This reminds Cray that Citry and the others are still at the Night Palace and should be returning soon. The lost slime could cause quite a disturbance. Liz notices that Cray appears concerned and asks him what's on his mind. He then asks what she would do if all of Zabrudia were to fall. Liz replies that she would escape somewhere south with Cray, since she's never seen the ocean and thinks it would be a perfect opportunity. With that, Liz leaves her bag with the boy and darts forward to restrain a passerby, claiming that he was watching them oddly. However, Cray tells her to let him go, and the man quickly flees. Once he reaches a secure spot, the fugitive ponders why Cray allowed his escape, suspecting that Cray might be aware of the plan. The following day, Cray and Liz venture into the most dangerous area of the city. Liz still believes this outing is a date, but Cray quickly clarifies that it's strictly business. Based on information from Eva, he's learned that people have been mysteriously disappearing from the slums. Normally, this wouldn't catch his attention. He's concerned that the missing slime creature might be involved. As a bonus, there's a new ice cream shop nearby, and Cray plans to check it out after doing the bare minimum for his mission. He suggests they visit the shop first, making Liz happy, though the shop owner is far less pleased. This is the same man Liz apprehended last time, but Cray let him go. The shop owner suspects that Cray intentionally allowed him to escape back then, and now fears Cray has returned to capture him, possibly knowing that the ice cream parlor is actually a front for one of the Akashic Tower's research facilities. Panicking, the man considers shutting down, but the arrival of a red-haired woman named Sophia, who oversees their organization's defense, gives him a glimmer of hope. Outside, Liz grows impatient and nearly blows the door down, but Cray stops her, suggesting the shop might not open today. Disappointed, Liz agrees and they return to their clan, much to the fake shopkeeper's relief. Back in his office, Cray asks Liz if she knows when the alchemist Citry will return from the level 8 treasure vault. Liz mentions she might take a while, and Cry just hopes she returns before her slime wrecks the entire city. Suddenly, Eva arrives at the office, informing him that the Hunter Association has assembled a team to investigate the White Wolf's den, even deploying a relic expert to see if any new discoveries can be made. Cry senses it's a serious matter, but he remains unconcerned since he has no intention of going there. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper reaches Akashic Tower's headquarters, alarmed as he reveals that Cry managed to find him. He's shaken because Cry easily saw through their perfect disguise yet didn't take any action against them. Trembling, he admits he can't fathom Cray's thoughts, and the others share his unease. They turn to Sophia for advice, and she boldly suggests confronting Cray and his clan directly. Everyone is stunned, but she reassures them they stand a chance despite their adversary being at level 8, as she believes the security system she designed can withstand Cray's clan. The old mage gives her permission to proceed, acknowledging they can't avoid this confrontation forever. The following day, the First Steps clan building is filled with adventurers. As Tino steps in, she's astonished by the crowd and asks a nearby person what's happening. He explains they're gathering to investigate the White Wolf's den, which Tino considers excessive. However, he then mentions Cry was initially planning to send Ark, a level 7 hunter, to the level 3 treasure vault, shocking Tino further and underscoring how grave the situation truly is. That is why the association and their clan have gathered a large number of treasure hunters to address this. Soon, Cray and Eva also arrive, and Cray, seeing the crowd, asks if all these people are gathered for some kind of celebration. Eva informs him that they are here to explore the White Wolf's den, explaining that since Cry had previously asked Ark to handle the task, she organized a team that could act as a replacement in his stead. This revelation shocks Cry as he only mentioned Ark because he's known as a Mr. Perfect who excels at everything. Realizing the high cost of deploying such a large group, he suggests they cut the number in half. The hunters are alarmed, fearing this will lead to their demise. Eva reassures them, suggesting that Cry has something essential to share, though in reality he doesn't. Cry tries to ease their concerns, saying the mission's difficulty isn't as severe as they're imagining, but they remain unconvinced. Turning to Eva, Cry inquires about the hunters' rewards and learns that Chief Gar has allocated extra funds to ensure everyone is well compensated. With the financial aspects settled, Cry tells the hunters to proceed as they wish, and they are pleased to know they'll be heading to the vault together. At that moment, Liz arrives, taunting them as a group of weaklings who lack the courage to take on challenges and grow stronger. She leaps up beside Cry, declaring that she'll tackle this mission herself, only needing Tino to accompany her. Cry quickly dismisses her request, unwilling to put Tino's life at risk or lower the morale of the other hunters. He announces that everyone here will participate in the mission, after which Eva assigns him to lead the group. Cry is surprised to hear this, but the others feel reassured, assuming their safety is assured with the clan master joining them. Craig realizes he can't simply refuse, so he agrees to join them later. Until then, Sven, who is already at the White Wolf's den, will take charge. Before the group departs, Cry warns one member to watch out for slime monsters if they encounter any in the vault. The team of treasure hunters sets off to the treasure vault, unaware that it's actually a base of the Akashic Tower. The tower members assume Cry has sent the hunters to confront them. As they consider how to respond, Sophia suggests this is their opportunity to attack the hunters while they're unprepared. She explains that her defense system is crafted to counter even the strongest hunters, requiring the combined strength of the Griever party to overcome it. However, only Cray, Liz, and the alchemist Citri are near the capital at the moment. Although Sophia has a strategy for Cry and Liz, she lacks a foolproof plan for Citri. Nonetheless, she harbors a personal vendetta against Citri, vowing to defeat her personally. Sophia mentions that Citri has uncovered their master's theory about creating new treasure vaults and has been experimenting with it. Declaring that this cannot be allowed, Sophia seeks permission from the wizard to deploy their full firepower against her. The wizard grants her permission and appoints her as the commander for the upcoming battle, though the second-in-command appears less than enthusiastic about the decision. Meanwhile, Sven and his team survey the area and find nothing out of the ordinary, though he still believes that Christ sent them there for a specific reason. Suddenly, he receives a call and instructs his teammate to blow the emergency whistle to alert the other treasure hunters. Once outside, Sven relays Cray's message, warning them to be cautious of the slime monster. The treasure hunters are annoyed, feeling frustrated at having to take orders from someone who doesn't even have the balls to be present on site. Sen encourages them to trust Cray's judgment and shares a story about how Cray once organized a flower-watching event and advised everyone to bring their weapons. As Cray made a toast, a treasure vault materialized behind him, and everyone saw his foresight firsthand. The hunters are impressed by this, and Sven reiterates that Cray's information is more valuable than any treasure they could find. Back in Kray's office, Liz nags him for an assignment, eager to showcase her combat skills in front of him. Already annoyed by her persistence, Kray wonders how much longer he has to put up with her, until the hunters resolve the situation at the White Wolf's den, allowing him to appear at the end. At that moment, the alchemist Citri arrives, informing Kray that she's there to help him deal with an immensely powerful and cunning organization that could soon threaten the world. Kray immediately orders Liz and Tino out of the office as Citri begins sharing details about the Akashic Tower. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Gark dons his battle armor to enter the treasure vault, eager to prove he's still in his prime. His assistant tries to dissuade him, fearing he might pull a muscle or injure his back. Suddenly, Citri arrives to inform Gark of crucial details about their true enemies. Back in Kray's office, he reflects on how Citri was the only other member of their friend group who wasn't incredibly powerful. She always knew that frontline combat wasn't for her, so she wanted to find another way to support her friends. It was Kray who suggested she pursue alchemy, which eventually led her to become the greatest alchemist. Citri tells Kray that the slime she created can quickly adapt to its environment and evolve, though it's an unstable and failed prototype. However, she assures him that she has programmed it to never target her or Kray. Kray is alarmed, realizing that the rest of the city might still be at risk. He's told Citri that he has no idea how or when the slime went missing, so she assumes it must have escaped its capsule and slipped through the drainage. Kray feels somewhat reassured by her trust in him, but then Citri mentions another matter, something potentially even more dangerous than the escaped slime. Meanwhile, back at the White Wolf's den, Sten learns from the reinforcements that Kray won't be joining them anytime soon and has also prevented Liz from coming. Sten is somewhat relieved not to have the unpredictable Liz there, and he decides to rally the treasure hunters with a pep talk. He asks if they're ready to face a slime, to which they all respond that even children can defeat slime, so there's no need to worry. Sven, expecting this reaction, silently curses Kray for not giving them more useful information. Just then, an exceptionally rough-looking hunter decides to enter the vault, dismissing strategy as a waste of time for the weak. Everyone else laughs at him, and Sven remarks that he can gladly be the first sacrifice to the monsters, so they can all learn from his death. The rough-looking hunter sneers, calling them all cowards, and heads inside. Meanwhile, a nervous woman raises her hand to ask a question. The redhead resembles Sophia, the defense head of Akashic Tower, but she introduces herself as an alchemist from Kray's clan. She mentions having collaborated with Citri on slime research and produces a vial of a potion she claims can kill any slime, no matter how strong. Sen then rallies the treasure hunters, urging them to aim for glory but return safely. The investigation begins, but as the day draws to a close, it only encounters slightly stronger wolf phantoms than usual. Sen wonders if Kray might have been mistaken, but thinks it would be for the best if that were the case. Just then, the rough-looking hunter, who isn't exactly a genius, returns, complaining that if everyone weren't so scared of slimes, the mission would be over by now. He heads into the forest to relieve himself, grumbling about Kray and giving orders from afar without stepping into the action himself. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and investigates, only to be stunned by the sight of two men and a huge chained wolf beast. The men, identified as part of the Akashic Tower, are there to implant the Incredible Hulk's nut into the wolf to make it incredibly powerful, just as Sophia had planned to unleash chaos on the hunters. The hunter senses something is wrong when he notices a massive syringe and dashes forward to confront the two men. He quickly knocks out one, but the other counters by launching fireballs, which the hunter deflects before slapping him down. He grabs the taller man, planning to interrogate him later, but the man asks if Kray sent him. The hunter responds that he's acting on his own, continuing to pummel him. Meanwhile, the other man injects a powerful serum into a wolf, which begins to melt on the outside but grows more threatening because of it. The two men announce that the mutated creature will now seek out and absorb the strongest source of mana around, making it even more powerful. The creature immediately drains the two men of their mana, and the hunter sounds a warning whistle. Sten hears it and rallies everyone outside the forest to prepare for battle. Soon, a heavily injured hunter staggers out, missing an arm, and warns them that Kray was right. A formidable slime monster is now loose in the forest. Just then, the wolf phantom, transformed into a slime by the serum, emerges. Sen takes the first shot, aiming an arrow at its legs to slow it down. The magicians unleash fire and ice spells on the slime, but it's unaffected. Meanwhile, Sven and the healer tend to the hunter, who explains that he saw two strange figures inject Phantom, turning it into the slime creature. Unharmed by the magical onslaught, the slime creature advances. Sen decides to try a physical approach, rapidly firing several arrows, but they have no effect on the wolf slime. Sten is stunned to discover that neither magic nor physical attacks have any effect on the slime. Despite this, He assures the hunter that they'll fight as long as possible. As the slime wolf charges, Sven warns the team to keep their distance and avoid its attacks since the creature moves quite slowly. He then rushes to Sophia, asking for the anti-slime chemical she has. She tells him that the slime will self-destruct if it comes into contact with the substance. Taking on this critical task, Sven runs to lure the slime wolf, which suddenly leaps toward him. Swiftly, he plants the vial in the ground and dodges aside. The slime wolf lands on the vial, shattering it, and as it encounters the chemical, explosions erupt within its body. Everyone thinks the battle is over, but the slime wolf absorbs the blasts and survives. Sven feels defeated, realizing the wolf wasn't a true slime, otherwise it would have been destroyed. An armored ally explains that Cry had described it as a slime-like creature, not a true slime, leaving Sven cursing Cry and the Grievers. At that moment, Citri arrives to help, having convinced Cry to assign her to the White Wolf's den. She tells Sven that the reason they can't harm the slime wolf is due to its dense mana, which acts as a barrier. Fascinated by this unique creature, she observes it carefully and quickly deduces how the wolf's phantom form transformed into slime. She approaches the dangerous beast, casually dodging its attacks, and realizes it is hunting those with the most mana to restore itself. Pitying it as a failed experiment, she decides to put it out of its misery. She hurls a vial at the slime wolf and calls for Sven to shoot it. With pinpoint accuracy, Sven, now an upgraded marksman, strikes the vial mid-air, which then hits the slime wolf's head. Citri reveals to him that the vial was filled with anti-mana metal, capable of nullifying the creature's defenses. At that moment, Gark arrives, fully equipped in battle gear, surprising Sven. Citri explains that she had asked Gark for a ride earlier since, unlike her sister Liz, she couldn't just sprint all the way there. This doesn't entirely satisfy Sven's curiosity, so Citri adds that she has some insight into the recent events and suspects who's behind them. She leads everyone to a nearby camp, where she begins explaining the existence of the Akashic Tower and its leader, Master Magus. The stern, office-like men in the group mention that Magus had been banished from the Imperial capital long ago, but Citri questions whether a mere ban could truly stop him. She reveals that this vault serves as the Akashic Tower's base, and Sophia suggests that it may hold valuable equipment. Citri, familiar with Sophia, confirms this and explains that the tower is gearing up for battle to protect their research from discovery. She's determined to stop their illegal and dangerous experiments and asks everyone to follow her, assuring them that while she's not Cray, she'll give her all. Later, as everyone prepares for the fight, Sten's assistant notes Citri's courage. Sten warns him not to underestimate her. Despite her weaknesses, she has an uncanny ability to turn any situation in her favor, making her as formidable as any other griever. Meanwhile, Liz clings to Cray, pleading with him to let her go help Citri, but he firmly denies her, brushing off her complaints. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.